good to go. Hello again.
Hello,
um,
hello.
I super appreciate that you had reached out, or I guess we both kind of reached out to each other. It was from Tim My Zoom, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a great meeting. Great people there, like yourself.
Like yourself too. Thank you. So I mean, what would be like your 1 minute intro? Like,
Mm. Well, I really have been in real estate for many years, and one of the things that I made an effort to do from the very beginning was to get women interested in investing. And so my heart is and passion is for helping women to get interested in investing and understand that they can do it in a very little time, a very little, even with a small budget, they can start investing. So I just really want my message is come on, ladies, let's do this. Let's make this money. Let's have fun.
I love that. And why do you focus on women specifically?
When I first started, like eons ago, it was very male dominated. Fell in love with real estate when I was 13. My parents got some property through seller financing, and it opened the doors for our family financial future. My parents were both entrepreneurs, and so we went from two incomes, struggling, entrepreneurs, to four additional doors of income. So it was great. And I said to my dad, why don't you do this again? And he said, no, I don't like being a landlord. And I thought, when I grow up, I'm going to do this at least 10 times. So I started reading different books about investing, and I would go to seminars, and all I saw were men there, which is not a bad thing. Of course, they're fine. But I was like, where are the women here? So that's why from the very beginning it just seemed like it was a male dominated space. And so I wanted to, have more friends with Oh, are you frozen?
Yeah, sorry about that. There we go. We're back.
Okay.
Could you repeat the last part that you said?
Oh, yeah. So the when I would go to seminars about investing, creative real estate investing, it was men throughout all the chairs. They were just mostly dominated by men. And I wanted to have friends there that looked like me and, of the female persuasion. And so I always would try to get my friends to go. And I just became my passion to invite my friends and introduce them to the world of real estate investing.
That's so amazing. I love that. I also really like that you were introduced to kind of investing in passive-ish income at a young age. That's really interesting. I feel like that's very different than most people.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about retirement or anything like that. It was just magical to me how real estate could change someone's life so quickly.
Hmm.
My mom and dad worked really hard, pretty much 6 7 days a week to build their business, and I thought I was really proud of them, and they were great examples of dedication. But a family friend had moved out of state, and they asked my mother if she knew anyone that would be interested in buying their property. And she asked her friends, and they said, no, we're really not interested in that property. It's not the best neighborhood. So my mom called her friend later that day, and she said, I'm so sorry, but no one seems to be interested. And the lady, a dear friend of our family for many years, she said, my husband and I, we were talking, and we think this is something that you need. And they explained to my parents about exchanging time for money. And even though they were self employed, they would never, ever have anything in the future because they would only be living on time. And
Mm.
so after they explained it to to my parents, then they said, but we still can't afford this property. So my dad had always kept a life insurance policy with New York Life, and I remember the agent would come and collect the money, because they didn't have direct deposit or any of those tools back then. So the agent actually came to my dad's business to collect the premium each month. So
Mhm.
my dad used a cash value out of his life insurance. He pulled some cash out, used as a down payment. and then they worked it out over the kitchen table. And then they went to their accountant the following week because it had been a holiday weekend. And he was so upset. He said, "How could you do this? You've ruined all the values for everyone. Your neighbors are going to be so upset." Because it was a commercial property. It wasn't like a single family home. And, it was a big deal. And so they said, "Well, we want to help them. So make it work." So on paper, it was like a gift, but for my parents and my parents' dignity, they paid them from the
Mhm.
rent each month until they paid it off. And so my dad taught us about delayed gratification as we were working in the property on the weekends. My dad said, I was young, we couldn't do much, but we helped where we could. And my dad said, "You'll see, this is going to pay off." And I was a teenager at the time, and I thought, "Oh, okay, we'll see." I didn't have any expectations for it, but it was fun. We had a family project to work on together. And then I grew up working in the managing the property and doing the leasing and showing the property and putting the signs up in the window for rent and things like that. And it was three storefronts and a single family home. And it's always been rented until 2020 was the first time when the tenants didn't pay because the county said that they didn't have to.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Wow. Yeah. You definitely were fortunate. It
Yeah.
feel like you were fortunate at the time when you had to, or when you were working with him. Like, were you aware enough to be like, oh, this is useful?
I Yeah, I knew that I didn't like to get my hands dirty, so I I learned early that I didn't want to really be involved with rehab or anything like that. It was an older property. They had actually the previous owners had lived there and raised their family, and then they worked in the front. The husband and wife each had a business, and then they had the protection of the third unit being their extra income stream, and
Hmm.
so it worked really well for them. But since it was older home, it needed it had been rented and not given the love that an owner would. So the house needed some work before we could rent it out. We put it on a Section 8, or my parents did initially, for about the first 10 or 12 years. And
Hmm.
so it was something they could always count on. And then my dad was a barber, so he used one of the units, and then we rented out the other two. And it was really great, but I said, "Oh, this is a lot of work doing rehab and cleaning up the property." One of the units, my dad had the barber shop, so we had a beauty shop, and we'd rent the spaces inside the beauty salon. So on the weekends, on Sunday, when the beauty shop was closed, guess who got to be the janitors? So I have learned, a little bit about all of maintenance and cleaning and all of that. And so I knew that I kind of wanted to stay in the paper side as much as I could of real estate investing.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, definitely. I understand. I don't understand to that extent. I think that that's a really very fascinating story, or your story is very unique. Um, my mom,
Yeah.
my mom would take me and my cousins because they lived with us at one point. She would take us to the swamp meet. So she would fill up a van with jeans and clothes that she would sell, and we would have to work. And so, I mean, obviously, I was the youngest. I think I was like 6 or 7 at the time. So a lot of the times I was just kind of walking around, and then sometimes she'd say like, here's a sign, here's an arrow, and just try to get people in to walk around our shop. And
Yeah.
like, it wasn't, she was definitely very relaxed with me, but I think from that I also don't really like doing a lot of manual labor. I know I could do it, and at least when I'm helping out physically with a lot of stuff, because we hold events now, we run night markets and do a lot
Oh,
of different things. um like, I do feel a little proud of myself, and I'm like, all right, cool, like, I'm helping out, I'm getting things done. But if I can help it, I won't do it. I'll be like, oh, sorry, I'm not working today, and then run off.
Yeah, that sounds like when I was growing up, my mom had a daycare. So on Saturdays when we'd go shopping in the neighborhood, if she saw someone with a stroller, she'd say, "Oh, look, the stroller, a diaper bag, a baby. That's my person." And she'd start talking to them. And we'd say, I have a younger brother, and we'd say, "Mom, you're not supposed to talk to strangers." And she's like, she'd just go, "Be quiet, be quiet." And that's how she marketed on the weekends. And
No,
so we would go hide behind a post or behind anything just to hide and to go, "What is this lady doing?" We didn't know, but she was marketing.
exactly. Yeah, it's I am constantly reminded of this, and I was even reminded of this today. My mom is, I don't know if she's like consciously aware that she's building these connections and relationships, but she's always done that since I was younger. I mean, she's definitely a talker, and she's
Yeah.
extroverted and likes being around people and meeting people.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's great. Like um, do you know who Ed Milet is?
Yes.
Yeah. So I I've seen a lot of his I've seen him speak, and he mentions how he's genuinely interested in everybody that he
Mhm.
meets, and I feel like that's my mom. And and today she had to connect with. We were out, and she was like, "Oh, I need some tape," and she was like, "Oh, I know this person. This is their store. Let's walk in, see if they have some tape." And
Mhm.
it's the smallest thing. It's just asking for tape, but the fact that
Yeah.
we were in some kind of random area, and she knew one of the store owners, and
Right.
walked inside, and we weren't in there for long. We were in there for maybe 10 minutes, but she was chatting with them. And as we're leaving, this happens a lot where she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for that to take so long," where she's apologizing to me. But in my mind, now that I'm in this business, I'm like, no,
Mhm.
you're furthering that relationship. You're asking them about how they are, how their
Yeah.
holidays were. And that's what gets people to want to work with you. They know that you're interested in them. It's
That's
wild.
so true. I know the same here. It's relationships are everything. So like my parents both had very personal services businesses, and so for 40 years they ran their businesses. And when they were in their latter days, and people would come to visit that had known them for ever and ever. And even now I talk to people and they say, "Your mom did so much for me, and your dad was my hairdresser barber since I was a teenager." And so many beautiful stories that the relationships they made with people. And in the end, that's all that really mattered to them. When they were my mom was given 6 months to live. So she would call her friends and ask them to come visit, and people flew in. Like one of our friends flew in for the weekend. Like they literally left Louisiana at 6 in the morning. They arrived at noontime here in LA, and they checked into the hotel. They came to visit my mom for like 2 or 3 hours, and then they left the next day and flew back to Louisiana. They came literally just to see her.
Wow.
Yeah. That's so I really learned the value of relationships and how you can make a difference in everyone's life in the smallest to the largest way. In fact, one lady, she's 86 years old, and she had moved here when her son was a year old. Long story short, my mom kept her kid for 12 years. She said she never raised the rate. She paid $25 a week, which is unbelievable, right? And no one would keep her son because uh, she worked from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Mm,
And so, most daycares close at 5 or 6. So
hmm.
my mom kept her son from 1 until 9, and then she picked him up around 9:30. But she was able to get retire from a great job in aerospace, as well as buy investment property. And she still has that property now, and we talked about it. And so, it's just really great. My mother was kind of inspired me to be an advocate for women because she didn't keep kids at like 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever. It was, what do you need? It was custom to the person's work schedule and their budget. So it was a sliding scale. So anyway, very creative. I learned a lot growing up in an entrepreneurial home.
Ah, it's making me emotional. So that's so beautiful. Was it so I saw that in your LinkedIn bio, you have like abundance, accountability, entrepreneurship. And obviously it seems like entrepreneurship and accountability, I could definitely see how your parents instilled that in you. But did they also have that abundance mindset? Because I know, yeah,
Oh,
I guess that's a question.
yeah, absolutely. My mother was so giving, and she would never be concerned about anything like a limited mind, like, oh, if I do this, I'll lose. She never measured exactly if I did this, now you have to do this. It wasn't measurement at all. It was like, what do you need? And I'll give you what you need, because she said she knew where her blessings came from. She said, my blessings don't come from this person. So when you help that person, don't expect anything in return from
Mhm,
that person. You just give whatever you can share. If it's a smile, a compliment, helping the person change a tire, whatever it is, just help that person without expecting one single thing, and be grateful that you could have that. You were that abundant to share that smile, the compliment, whatever, you have the heart for that. But because it's just like paying it forward, and then it's like karma, or the energy, it comes back to you in unexpected ways. So
mhm,
instead of expecting that equal tit for tat, you could have something bigger, even more than whatever you gave.
mhm.
So that's how I grew up with my mom, always doing that. Whenever we would ask for something, she never said, oh, let me check my bank account, oh, let me check my budget. She's just like, okay, the God will provide. And then so many magical things happen watching her with that frame of mind. So I like to share that with people too, that they don't have to be afraid that this is their last dollar, the last shirt on their back. We have so much here in America. It's crazy that
Oh,
we have storage units with things in there, right? It's
yeah.
crazy. And so why would you even think for a minute that you would be without something? It doesn't matter what the economy is, whatever you believe is true. So if you believe the sky is falling, then that'll be true for you. If you believe that the sky's the limit, you could go as high as you want to fly, then that'll be true for you. So that's how I grew up. My mother, she never, if she needed something, she would just say, okay, all right, dear God, please give me that. And then she would just work and talk to people, and someone would say, I got your number from the doctor, like the pediatrician would refer customers first. She never asked the pediatrician to refer business to her, but the people in the neighborhood that went to the pediatrician, they'd say, oh, your kid's so healthy, or tell me about your whatever's going on. And they'd say, oh, I have this great daycare lady, and her name is so and so. And before you knew it, people said, my pediatrician said, come to you. So that's the magic. You just give. And she never knew that, until that the doctor was going to give her a referral.
Uh-huh.
You just do the right thing, and the magic happens.
I like your energy. I love your parents' energy. I love all of this. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. She reminds me a lot of my mom, but it my mom was more of a spiritual kind of sense where
Mm.
she would I guess kind of the same thing except I don't know, different things. She would go more into like, oh, the universe and
Oh, yeah.
abundance and what you think about you bring about. But I very much also like what your mom is saying, like this person isn't going to be the one that's was it giving
Hmm.
blessings or blessing me. So it's like, okay, yeah, that absolutely takes off um you know the feeling of, well, what can I get from this person? It's like, no, you're not going
Yeah.
to get anything, you're not expecting anything, just give.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've gone that way too, because growing up, my mom was Baptist and took me to a Baptist church and got baptized, sang in the choir, was an usher at the church, all that stuff, right? But it didn't make sense to me how they would say, but God is going to get you if for this or the other thing, don't do that. So I thought, okay, wait a minute, this doesn't add up to me. So I definitely just have, realized that there are some spiritual laws in effect.
Mhm,
And so I really go on that much more and have that direct relationship instead of having, a pastor or someone in between, because they're human too. They suffer from the same things we suffer from,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Oh
know.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My dad used to say, being a professional doesn't equal professionalism.
Yes.
Yeah, that definitely helped me growing up. I was lucky enough to, like most of my teachers growing up, I felt that I like school in general, so I think they it was like a good fit, good energy. Um,
Yeah.
but man, there were some teachers that just it's like they didn't like kids. So I was like, why are
Right.
you even here? And then
Yeah.
my dad would say, yeah, it doesn't equal professionalism. And that would really open to my eyes, like what you said. Oh, they're human. Okay.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
not perfect.
It's true. When I graduated from law school, I had worked in State Farm's House Counsel. So everyone just assumed I'd go to work in an insurance defense firm. And I
Hmm.
said, no, 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 I don't want to do insurance defense. I love real estate. So I wanted to work in a real estate law firm. So I went to work in a real estate firm, and it was my dream come true. Everything was going beautiful. And then it was three partners. One of the partners took on a case that was totally unrelated to the work that we did. It was um, a an, a personal kind of a personal injury case where wrongful death of a toddler, of an infant. And so, yeah, nothing close to real estate, right? So after several months in trial, we lost the case. No surprise. And our opponent, the attorney for the Children's Hospital, had never lost a case in 30 years. And we've never had a case in this area of law in
Hmm.
ever. So let's see, 0 to 30. What's going to happen? So we we lost, and so the firm dissolved because, and that was, everything's a lesson. I learned that, stay in your lane, stay in your wheelhouse, perfect what you know.
Hmm.
Maybe I wasn't supposed to be there forever, but it was really, disappointing. But I always look at, the silver lining. What can I learn from this situation? So that's why, in real estate, um, I started investing in pre foreclosure real estate, and I had a partner, and so he knocked on doors, and then he would bring the contract back, and I would negotiate with the bank because of my background in law and communications and all that. It just made sense.
Hmm.
But one day we came upon a property that um, could use some improvement, and if you just did this one thing, it was going to make woo all this profit. And it turned out to be, and I said, no, 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 stay in your lane.
Uh,
Do take it as, we'll do what we're good at, and then give someone else the opportunity to take it to the next level. We don't have to get every penny out of this property ourselves.
yep.
So anyway, no, no, no. So he brought in another partner and started working on this thing. And it was a nightmare. It was a money pit of all time. It was the biggest losing. And so stay in your lane. Lesson learned. Stay in your lane.
Lesson learned. Oh man. Wow. Yeah, okay. I was even going to say, silver lining is to also, I think, even bring in partners, or yeah, I think, oh, there we go. That's where I was going with. Um, it's like what you were saying, also stay in your lane, but um I think also it's good to, even if you're in your lane, like it can be tempting to get, one of those like, oh, I can do this fix and flip. When you're like, no, usually you just buy and you rent it long term.
Mhm,
And yeah, I think it's better to have like a piece of a pie than the whole
mhm.
thing sometimes.
Yeah.
It's if you're going on your own, or anything like that, like if you don't know what's going on, it can be overwhelming rather than if you
Mhm.
have your consistent, what's going on. I think really those pay way more than this whole overwhelming new project a lot of
It's
time.
true. I had another case where um, it was a property that the owner had lost his job and he couldn't replace it. And enough time to save it from foreclosure. So prior to foreclosure, we put an offer on the house. Well, it was actually a duplex, and he had started taking the one half apart so that it could combine it into one large home. They were newlyweds with one child, and they planned to have a big family, and that was going to be their forever home. Sadly, it didn't work out that way. So when I went to the bank and talked to them about a short sale, the first was owed $550,000, and I offered them $350,000. And so the house and its, after repair value was 750,000.
Wow.
So the second was owed 80,000, and I was able to get an agreement with the second for 5,000. So we
Oh,
wrote the check for 5,000 to the second, and the reason was, like I said, the property had been dismantled, half of it. So the lien holder did not believe that, why on earth would we accept such a short sale?
yeah.
And then they ordered a BPO, and when the realtor came to walk the property, her foot went through
The floor.
the the floor. So she gave them the report, which corroborated everything I had told them, and they accepted $350,000. So then we still sold the house for 550 to a contractor who could take it to the next level and reap the rewards of the 750 potentially. So, that's how you make it work. You get your part, and then let someone else do what they're really good at.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. And that all came from door knocking?
Yes, yeah, door knocking. Oh my goodness, that's a secret. I don't like door knocking, but but there are people that really like door knocking. So I like to partner with people that have the abilities that I don't, and so together we're better for our partnership.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I had this lady one time, we had a class because we were doing so well. People said, "How are you doing that?" So then we put a class together, and one lady came to the class, and she had been a truck driver, but she was tired of being a truck driver, and she didn't have any place to live. She was staying with the, family.
Hmm.
She didn't have a cell phone, nothing. She had nothing at all. So we said, if you knock on doors with us, we'll split the profit with you after the dust settles.
Hmm.
And so she's like, I really want to learn this business. So gave her a cell phone, and she went out door knocking. We gave her the list as well because she didn't have access to the list either. And so she found a property, and she called me and she said, Cynthia, I have a property, and they're going to be going to sell very shortly. Can you work with the bank? And I said, yeah, I can work with the bank. There are some that are easier than others. So I said, yeah, that sounds like one I could work with. And so it stopped the sale, of course, and put an offer on the house and did the short sale and that whole thing. But what was funny was, like I said, she was kind of, and having a little tough time herself. So
Hmm.
she called me, like, this phone call came in about 9:30 in the evening. And I said, are you there at their house? And she said, she said, yeah, we just had dinner. We just
God.
I said, well, those people are in foreclosure. Will you leave them alone and let them eat in peace? I mean, so anyway, it was kind of cute. It was kind of cute. We were able to do so many programs with her because she just went out every day knocking on doors, and
Mhm.
she she got a car, she got a new hairdo, she got an apartment. Her whole life changed because of door knocking.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Are those the classes that you still do now?
Well, yeah, so I really love teaching and sharing about, investing. And so now I can teach about the short sales and pre-foreclosure, but right now I've been focusing on tax liens and tax deeds investing. And the best part is, not only do I teach how to do it, but we actually go on field trips.
Okay, that sounds fun.
Yeah, that's fun. So I started in Las Vegas, and we would go and I tell them about the different auctions. And finally there was an auction in Las Vegas. I think it was 2019, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so excited! We're gonna they spied on property. They're like, I'm going to get that one. I'm going to get that one. I said, no, 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 you won't, but let's just go so you'll see. So, right now, the way tax liens and tax deeds are in the major city like Los Angeles, Las Vegas, you know, it's hard to compete. There's lots of money that are going into buying these properties. So you usually have to go 2 to 4 hours outside of a major city to really, be profitable and not have too much competition. So one of the students from my program, she went to Pahrump. Their tax lien, well, tax deeds, their deeds in Nevada. The tax deed sale started at $800, and her budget was 2,000. She won the land at $2,000, and it was worth $28,000. So I love showing ladies how they can take a small amount of money and turn it into much more. So she decided not to sell it. She's going to hold on to the property because it could double in value because land is getting scarce
Mhm.
in the general area, Las Vegas metropolitan and the surrounding areas. But it's just a 90-minute drive to Pahrump. But on the other hand, we went and bought some tax liens over the counter, and we drove to Mojave County, which is Kingman, Arizona, as a part of that area. And we bought some tax liens over the counter, and it was fun because the lady there at the tax collector's office, she's like, I've never had 6 people come in here at the same time and want to, buy tax liens. But it worked out great. One of the ladies on that field trip was a pharmacist, and she bought 3 liens. Her budget was 1,000, and one of the 3 properties redeemed. One of the liens redeemed, and the other 2 did not. They were mobile home spaces, and so about 300, 350 in back taxes, unpaid tax, and so they were worth 15,000 a piece.
Wow.
Well, she literally turned less than $1,000 into $30,000.
That's incredible. And can you explain a little more what it means when you said that they were redeemed and what tax liens and tax deeds are?
Sure. So there's 2 basic types of tax liens. When someone doesn't pay tax sales, when someone doesn't pay their taxes on their real property or raw land, um, then they'll get notices eventually if they continue to fail to pay. The county needs that money to run the different things in that county, like the sheriff department or the police department, libraries, the parks and recreation, fire department. Those things, need those funds from the taxes to operate. So when they don't have that, then they either put it for sale, which is a tax deed,
Mhm.
and the person will bid to get that property starting at the price of the unpaid taxes. So, like for example, in Santa Clara County, which is San Jose, California, covering part of other cities too, but like San Jose, you might recognize. There was $1 million 1 bedroom condominium that was the list price, starting bid was $40,000 in unpaid taxes. So, you could get that $1 million property for, maybe 250,000. And
Wow.
then that's huge. But a lot of people don't have that kind of money to invest. So that's why you can start small in outer areas
Mhm.
and then build up a war chest. So like another lady, back to the explanation. So deeds, the person wins a property.
Mhm.
And so the county has done the due diligence and different things that put it on the list to be sold, that they've missed so many payments and ignored so many announcements. And they have to notify everyone on title record that this property could be foreclosed. And so, like the bank, so it doesn't always happen to a property with the loan on there because the bank, like Bank of America, Chase, they need to watch out for these things to avoid this, say, case.
Mhm.
But if they don't, then it goes to sell. Sometimes they can have a due process for 12 months or a different time period where the person can object to it. In Texas, for example, they have what's called a redemption deed. So if they win the auction in Texas, the homeowner has a period of time, like a year or so. It's in the rules, and you read the rules before you get involved, where the homeowner can get the property back for the unpaid taxes and 25%. So if you won the auction at $50,000, for example, then the homeowner could redeem the property within a period of time, get it back by paying the $50,000 and 25% of that 50,000.
Wow.
So that's how that works. On a
That's
tax lien, you don't get the property at all. You're just getting the buying the debt. So you're taking the position of the county, and that's first position lien.
mhm,
So the person that owes the taxes, they have, like for example in Arizona, 3 years to redeem that. So the first year, if they don't come back, they have another chance. The second year, they don't come back and pay the back taxes. So one more year, and they failed the third year not to redeem it, which means they would pay, in this case, if it were a $50,000 lien,
mhm.
they'd have to pay $50,000 as well as 16% interest for each of those years.
Ooh,
And if they don't do that, then you have the right to foreclose. And then you go to court and you say, this hasn't been paid, you know, uh, and then they're not able to get the property back at that point. You become the owner of the property. So that's what the pharmacist did.
mhm,
After the 350 $350 was not redeemed, and now she has a lawsuit. So she got hired an attorney. The attorney did the paperwork. It cost about $2,500. So now she's into it for $3,000, right? Her
mhm,
initial lien plus the legal fees.
mhm,
When she sells the property, then she can recover her money
mhm.
and make the overage from the value of the property. So I have another lady, she bought a tax lien on a secondary market. So that means that a investor already bought the tax lien.
Mhm,
And when it got to the point of going to have a legal, matter, he
mhm.
didn't want anything to do with that. So he just wanted his money. So the she bought the tax lien as it was turning into a deed, and paid the interest, his asking price, right?
Mhm.
And so that property was worth $70,000, and she bought it for 7,500. And now the people were living in the house. They had inherited, two brothers inherited this home. It was nothing wrong with the house, but they refused to pay the taxes. They're like, we're just going to live here till, and we're not going to pay the taxes. So they didn't think anyone would, that this would happen, but it did. And so they wouldn't leave. So she gave them $2,500 to move. So she was into it for, about $10,000.
Mhm.
Now, there was nothing wrong with the property. So once they moved out, within 30 days, she had rented the property for $1,000 a month. And that went on for about 2 years. And then the third year, the tenant moved out, and she was unsure whether to um, continue renting the property or rehab it to make it more valuable, like put another unit on there. There was enough land to put another unit on there, so she could have $2,000 coming from that property instead.
Mhm.
But she decided that now the property's gone up to $100,000, and she's decided to sell it so she can buy some more tax liens and tax deeds.
Mhm.
But single mom, high school, a son in high school. She's a realtor, and it's a great way for her to. She's addicted. She buys liens and liens and liens. She just bought 5 homes for $800 a piece.
Oh my gosh! And this is all just from tax liens or tax deed.
Yeah, so I encourage people to buy in Alabama. The prices of the homes are very good, and she's never been there. She has never seen the property. She hires realtors and different people to go. She's never seen. I said, "Don't you want to see the house?" She goes, "Yeah." And
God.
so yeah, so Alabama's a great place to buy. Florida are a great place. Florida is tax lien and tax deed, so you can have your pick. If you're interested in um, building interests, like for retirement purposes. Tax liens are a great way to buy them now, especially because you can buy them online. A few
Mhm.
years ago, before COVID, it was hard to buy liens and deeds online, but now Florida's great, and many other states are offering the deeds online.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean the, tax sales online. So it varies from place to place, but Florida's a great place to invest. Arizona's great too. One of my ladies, she's another single mom. Her son, she's very involved in his life. She works a full-time job, and I really admire her. She's quite a go-getter. But she took my class, and so the first you graduate, you buy your first lien for under $500, and she found one for $75 in Surprise, Arizona, and it was a little piece of land. And so I always say, what's your exit strategy? Got
Mhm.
to have a plan. Before you buy it, what's your plan? And she said, well, maybe it could be a cell tower. So if they don't pay the taxes on there, she's like, it's a small piece, but a cell tower could fit on there, or a billboard sign. And it's near a airport, a municipal airport. So it's a good location,
Mhm.
commercial industrial area. But for $75, what do you have to lose?
Oh my gosh. Wow, that is extremely creative as well. I was not thinking about a cell tower, or and I know people that do that as well. I speak to them very regularly, and that still didn't even come to mind. That's amazing.
Mm, yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
so everyone can invest in it. I know a lady, she said that she taught her children to invest in tax liens when they were in high school, and none of them have had to go to work for anyone.
Wow. So
Yeah.
how many, I guess, deals do you think they have at one time?
Oh my gosh, there's thousands and thousands of tax liens available. And now there's even more, because you have to think about, some people are, now that the baby boomers are in this stage of the end of life, many of them, they don't have children or family members, or they didn't tell their family member that they bought a property 30, 50 years ago in Ohio,
Hmm.
that they were going to there's so many properties. A friend of mine that are almost $1 million a piece. Two sisters died without children, and they left the property to each other. And now they're both dead. Both of the properties are in non-payment of taxes, and they're inching towards the tax sale.
Hmm.
And that's going to be a total windfall for the state, because say, for example, if the past due taxes are $60,000 and the house is worth $750,000, if it bids at, let's say the winning bid is 250,000, they're only owed 60,000. So the rest is a total windfall to the state.
Hmm. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh my goodness. It's amazing how I'm always learning something new in this field. And I mean, I haven't been in it very long. I've been in real estate for about 2.5 years now. But
Yeah.
wow, I thought, okay, wraps, lease options, fix and flips. Okay, I think I kind of understand how many, like what are my options. I had no
Yeah.
idea about any of this.
Yeah. It's there's That's what makes it so interesting, because you can, over the years, you can learn new strategies and techniques. Sometimes they work together and sometimes they work separately, but the more you know, the more creative you can be in solving the problem. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like
Do you,
even notes and liens, they go very well together,
mm,
because sometimes you could be talking to someone that has property that they're not able to pay, and but their situation is temporary, so maybe they just need a loan
mhm.
with in first position, if their property's free and clear, and they can, you just do a note instead on there and avoid the sell altogether. So, like, say for example, I had a situation like that where it was only $1,000, but for whatever reason, free and clear. The property's worth $140,000. Nothing's wrong with the property. Why can't you? You don't have a, you don't have a note. Why don't you have $1,000 to pay this? But they didn't. So just did a small loan on that property for the 100,000. I mean, for the $1,000. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh my goodness. And why would it be, or why would an investor do a note, or I guess a loan, rather than just trying to buy the property?
Because if the person, if they're not able to, make that note, then, well, one, they can flip it. They could flip the paper on the note itself and sell it to another investor. So just say if they did the loan for, $1,000, and after they pay the interest over time, just say it's worth, $5,000, for example.
Mhm.
They could sell it, for at a discount. And so they still would make money. So if, let's say if it's 5,000 and they sold it for 2,000, they doubled their money from the 1,000 they lent and to
Mhm.
2,000, or they could, depending on the person, make a little bit more instead of waiting for that money over time. So they did better because, the interest rate on that property in Alabama is only 8%.
Mhm.
So you did better that way.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's, you wouldn't, you would, some people choose to do that because the loans are, can be way smaller than if you were to purchase the property.
Yeah. So like, for example, the interest rate that you would get at 8% on $1,000 for 3 years, 888, that's good if that's all you have.
Mhm.
But, it's a quicker turnaround if you were able to do a note instead,
Mm, okay.
because they put the $1,000 out, just say, and within 3 months they flipped the paper to someone else. So they made, they got their money back and another 1,000 in 90 days. So they
Okay.
doubled their money.
Yep.
That's better than the 8% they would have made from through the traditional process.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. And where do you teach these classes? Where can the people find you?
Oh, online, of course, baby. At first, I was doing them in person. I had a space at a co-working space in Las Vegas, and I'd have live classes. But now we meet online through Zoom, and so it's grown from California to Florida. I've had students everywhere in between, and it's Chicago, Texas, Virginia, Maryland. So yeah, Northern California, students from all over. Some people find me on my YouTube channel talking about tax liens. One of my um, videos on YouTube has over 2,000 views. And I know a lot of people have thousands, 50,000, 100,000, but I am so proud of my 2,000 views.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember I've posted when I was younger and I got like 100 views and I thought, wow. And now like looking back on it, and I think I've seen something before where, you know, like let's say you post a video and 50 people like it and you're like, oh, okay, well, that didn't do well. But if you had a store and you had 50 people come in all in one day, you'd be like, wow, this is really, really good.
Yeah, right. You'd be proud of yourself. So, yeah, I'm happy. But I love doing the podcast, and I have a Facebook page called group called Tax Lien Mastermind. So yeah, they can find me there. And my website is my first and last name.com, cynthiaspirlin.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, linkedin.com, networking with Cynthia.
Amazing. And what's your podcast called, or what's your YouTube channel?
Creative Real Estate Incubator.
Ooh.
Yeah, because it reminds me of like being an entrepreneur, that incubator, like, let's do this.
Mhm.
Let's get our hand, roll our sleeves up, and let's start, buying these liens and these deeds and start making money. I tease my friends. I said, when they, talked about they're celebrating their child's birthday or grandchild's birthday, I'm like, oh, you're buying them a tax lien? Oh,
It's cheaper.
right,
It's like,
because you could be buying them a 100,000. That could be $100,000 gift you're giving your grandkid for a couple $100.
wow. I really like that. I really like that that mentality as well. I'm going to start putting that into action.
Yeah, why not? It's better than a savings bond. I vote for a tax lien. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I would vote that over some gaming consoles sometimes. I remember my younger cousins, now they're older, but when they were younger and they would get a lot of presents from their aunts and stuff during Christmas, it would be like new Xboxes or new PlayStations, and those were really
Mhm.
pricey. I
Yeah.
know that my family could, that my most of my family as well, like those aunts and uncles, they do have rental properties themselves. So if they would have known about this, I think that would be
Mhm.
so much more valuable.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have a niece, and so that's what I'm going to start doing for her too. Because at first I never know what to get her, and so I try to get to know her. There's such an age difference between us, and so she's real sweet though. And I said, "What do you like?" And she says, "Oh, I like money." Just those gift cards, but it's so impersonal, the gift cards. So I said, okay, I'm just going to start buying her some tax lien. She'll appreciate it one day. I'll still give her those little gift cards, but I'm definitely going to help her build a nest egg for her future.
That's amazing. I am definitely like, I want to start gifting people classes to, or your classes essentially. I think that's
Oh, that's
amazing.
a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea too. In fact, I had a lady, she heard me speak about generational wealth, and she signed up for my class and she invited her daughter, and I said, I gift the class to your daughter because she really wanted to come, but she's in nursing school. And I said, of course. I asked her why. She said, I'm going to be a nurse, I'm going to make good money, and I want to invest it. I want to know how to invest my money. So I said, okay, come on with your mom and learn everything you can. And she was a sponge. She really loved it. But even when I did the short sale, I remember a friend of mine came and they said, we found this house. Can you do a short sale on it? And I said, okay, sure. And it was $90,000. And I was like, that's my wedding gift to you. You can give some really great gifts
Uh-huh.
with this real estate knowledge.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. You're so interesting. You are such an interesting person. What? This is amazing.
Yeah, who can say they gave a $90,000 gift to their friend for wedding gift?
That
That's fun, just saying that.
is very fun. I want to do that. In the next 5 years, I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to have at least two of those
I love it.
$90,000
I love
gifts.
it. I love it. I love it. That's great. That's great.
And now the last question I have for you, at least for now, um, if you could be any vacation, what would you be? I've had people say they would like to be a skiing trip. They would like to be a cabin on a lake. What do you feel describes you?
Mm. My favorite place that I can imagine is, in Fiji, they have those villas that
Yep.
overlook the water. I want
Mhm.
to be one of those where, people enjoy the place and you're right over the water. That would be great.
I love that. That's so cool. I have not thought of those since I think I was in high school.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Thank you. Thank you. It's on my bucket list. Yes.
I love it.
Or you know what would be great too? Another thing would be a cruise ship, because then you could go all over and you could, a cruise ship. We take cruises on the TaxLink virtual. We do cruise. We're going to cruise to Mexico. Come on aboard.
What? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
because they
How,
have internet on the ship, and
yeah.
we can, while we're at sea traveling to Ensenada, Cabo San Lucas, Puerto Vallarta, we can buy some tax liens.
Together. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's like a vacation, but vacation together. Workcation.
Yeah, workation. So it's going to be in October, November. We're going to have a great time. So more to follow.
Wow. That's definitely on my list now to look into. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
you have to have fun with these tax liens. When I first started before COVID, we would have Taco Tuesday. You know how that's popular? And I called it tax lien and tequila.
Very much fun. I love it. I love everything that you've said, everything that you're sharing, and I think that you're just amazing. You've got a great mission, and everything is so interesting too. I'm having trouble uh, trying to stay focused on what I do. I do multifamily, and this is sounding so intriguing. But no, shiny object syndrome.
Right, right, right. No, no, no. No, not yet, not yet.
No.
But just keep it in mind because you could find some properties
Mhm.
that fit your wheelhouse that are um, a tax deed,
Yeah,
multifamily.
I think what I'm gonna do is just make my family get into this, so we all kind of diversify and then can help each
Mm, I like that idea. Perfect, perfect. That sounds good too.
other. Create
Yeah,
an empire.
yeah.
Well, thank you again so much, Cynthia. I really appreciate you coming on. You're fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Well, I admire you so much. I love your youth and your enthusiasm and how much you've learned so much in just a few, couple years. So you are on your way to an empire, my friend.
I feel very fortunate, and yeah, I'm just
You
trying to
are.
support as much as I can. And I'm so glad that this is so interesting to me as well. I grew up not really thinking about what I wanted to do
Hmm.
when I was older, and the fact that I kind of just stumbled into this field and now it's got all of my attention. I feel very fortunate.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today and to be a part of your endeavor. And I wish you all the best. I can't wait to see you in 20 years.
Thank you, Cynthia. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you again for coming on. And again, I'll post all your socials and all your links in the description. And you have
Hmm.
a wonderful Friday.
All right, you too. We'll talk soon, okay?
Absolutely. Thank
All
you.
righty, bye bye.
Bye.